Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, something that I haven't done in quite a while now, and that means today we're going to be doing a Q&A. Now, I've asked in my Discord some of the lads to sort of give me some questions related to Star Wars or Star Wars gaming, or even just life in general, to be honest, and I have compiled a list of really fun, interesting questions here. So we're going to get stuck into it. Before we do get stuck in, if you guys are new to the channel, then definitely hit that subscribe button, and if you do end up enjoying the video, then be sure to hit that like button as well. But with that being said, let's get stuck into some of these questions. Now, the first question that I'm going to answer here is the one that I have been thinking about this all week. I asked this, asked for some of these questions probably about 4 or 5 days ago now as I'm recording this, and I saw this question essentially straight away, and all week at work I've essentially just been in my own head thinking, what is the answer to this question? So Star Wars Boy has asked the question, and he was actually asked this question as well. If you could create a football starting 11 using any heroes from Battlefront 2, what would your team look like? Now, I'm going to base this off of no like force abilities and stuff, because obviously you could just say like put Darth Vader in goal and he could just stop the ball every time. So I'm not using any like force abilities or anything like that. I'm essentially just going to go off like stature. So obviously a big character like Vader, he's going to be a bit more tanky, a bit more of like a center back type, and then a fast character like Maul is going to be more like a winger. That's essentially the only criteria that I'm going off here. So the first answer is in goal. We're obviously going General Reeves. He's got 4 arms, that's just a no-brainer. He can also go into that like claw rush sort of mode when maybe he's defending a penalty or something. He can go into claw rush and be a little bit faster than the average keeper. So we're gonna go Grievous in goal. For the centre back pairing, I'm gonna go Vader and Chewie. I think those two are they would be just essentially unstoppable as a centre-back pairing. At right-back, I'm going to put Obi-Wan, because obviously he is defensive-based in the game, but he's also, he says himself, the best defense is a swift and decisive offense. So I feel like he can play right-back. He could probably play left-back as well, to be honest, because he's got that defensive mindset, but he's also able to go forward and attack. And then at left-back, I think I'm going to go with Phasma, because obviously Phasma is yet another like defensive sort of team-based character or player in this case. So that would be my back 4, or technically back 5. For the holding midfielder, I think I'm going to go with Finn, because kind of similar to like Phasma, he's a little bit defensive but also can go forward and be a little bit creative and attacking. So I'm going to go Finn as the defensive midfielder. For the midfield duo, I think I'm actually going to go with Han and Leia. I think Leia could be a bit of a box-to-box midfielder, helping out on defense with Finn a little bit whenever she needs to, but she can also go forward as well. And I think Han would just be like a attacking midfielder, more that creative type, maybe the one who's taken the free kicks and stuff like that. For the wingers, I'm going to go Yoda on the right wing. He's obviously going to be a crafty little sneaky boy, typical winger build as well. And then on the left wing, I think I'll go Maul as well, because he's obviously very fast, very pacey, very athletic. And then up top, I think we're going to just have to go Anakin, because he's entirely overpowered, and I think he would just be good in essentially every sense of the word, because that's how he was in the game. So that is my starting 11. I honestly thought about that all week long. There's an absolutely amazing question there, and I'm keen to hear your guys. Anyone who's a football fan, soccer fan, whatever you call it, where you're from, leave yours down in the comments as well, because I'm actually keen to hear everyone else's starting 11 as well. Now, that question took me 100 minutes to answer, so I'm going to try and fire through some of these as fast as I can. Question here from Doug. He says, what is a piece of Star Wars memorabilia that you own that has a special place in your heart? That is a very tough one. I've got a lot of Star Wars random shit laying around this house, but I think the one for me, I've got the original trilogy on VHS. They were the first, that is the first time I ever saw Star Wars. I can't really remember. I may have seen The Phantom Menace as a kid, but I can't remember watching that before I watched the original trilogy. I remember watching the originals and then The Phantom Menace before Attack of the Clones came out in cinemas, and I remember watching the originals on these VHSs. And so really they are the introduction that I had to Star Wars, and I've still got them. They're still in really good condition. Not sure they would even work these days, and to be honest, I don't know if we even have the old VHS player, but that for me is probably my favorite piece of Star Wars memorabilia. Also just because it's like extremely rare too. Like, I don't actually know anyone else that still has their original copies of of the original trilogy. On top of that, they are also like obviously the original versions. They're not like the new editions that came out around the time of the prequels. They are like the original movies from the 70s and 80s that are essentially untouched. So those are definitely my favorite pieces of Star Wars memorabilia. We have another question here from Jazza, who says, what are you thinking will come soon regarding new Star Wars games since they're committing to them more frequently? Any theories? This is a tough one to answer because part of me thinks, okay, they've already announced like 8 games and none of them are even really, Survivor and Hunters are pretty close to coming out, but the rest of them are like years away still. So part of me thinks, okay, if they've announced that many, like surely they're just going to keep announcing more and more. But then also the more that I think of it, if they've already announced that many, there's only so many more they can announce. They can't, because if they announce like another 10 that are coming out in the next 5 years, that means we'd be getting one like every 2 to 3 months or something, and I just don't think that's realistic. So I'm not actually sure how to answer this one, because personally I actually think we kind of know pretty much all of the games that will come out between now and say 2025, like 3 years from now. I think we know all of those games. There may be like 1 or 2 extras that come out, like I'm sure there's something in the works that we don't know about, but I think we actually have heard like most of what's coming out. I think that's both a good thing and a bad thing. Like it's cool that we know all these games before a lot of them like have only just been, put into production and stuff. But the downside to that is that I think we all think there's going to be more announcements, and I'm actually not sure there will be. At least for like, I'm sure next year there'll be more announcements for games that come out in 2026, for example. But yeah, I'm not sure we're going to get too many more. So I'm not sure how to answer that, other than I don't actually think we're going to get any more news anytime soon, other than the stuff that we already know about anyway. We have a question here from Vic, who says, fuck, marry, kill / make love to, marry or make deceased between Ventress, specifically Slave Leia, and Ahsoka. And in brackets there, the adult version, because yeah, that's probably a good clarification to have. The answer immediately is to marry Slave Leia, or just any form of Leia. Leia is the absolute queen of Star Wars. So she's getting married. I think I would make love to adult version of Ahsoka, and then unfortunately that means I have to make deceased Ventress. So it's a tough one, but it's also it's a simple one purely based on the fact that you could name any girls in Star Wars, I'm always going to marry Leia. The next question is from Alice, and he says, what do you think you'll attend first, Star Wars Eclipse or your own funeral? Well, I'm not sure how I will attend Star Wars Eclipse. But I know what you mean. I honestly think I may attend my own funeral first, because I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, but I just think that game will get cancelled before it ever comes out. I hope I'm wrong, because the trailer looked absolutely sick, and the fact that it's set in the High Republic, that sounds awesome to me. But that game has had so much drama already, and it's like not even being made yet, that I just feel like it's gonna get cancelled, and it's also like 5 years away. So if it was coming out like next year, then I'd be like, okay, they're probably pretty close to being finished, and maybe that means they won't cancel it. But the fact they have essentially 5 years to like cancel the game, I do feel like it's going to get cancelled, which is unfortunate, because yeah, of all the things we know about so far, that's probably one of the games that I'm like the most interested in. But yeah, I unfortunately think that we may just never ever see that game, which would absolutely suck. That's going to go down as another one of those trailers that like looks so sick. Like that was one of the coolest trailers that we've probably ever got for a Star Wars game, outside of like some of the KOTOR and SWOTOR stuff. But it was an amazing trailer, and then I feel like in 10 years we're all going to be like, oh damn, remember that trailer for that game that came out? And then it just never even came out. I feel like we're headed for one of those situations, unfortunately. Now the last question comes from Sturm, and he says, can't remember if you've covered anything like this in a video, but what would you like to see or are looking forward to in Jedi Survivor? That's a very good question. I've sort of touched on it a little bit, but it's been months since I've made any videos really on Survivor, so that is a very good question. One thing I'm looking forward to is the fact that there's probably going to be blaster gameplay. I think just by the fact that Cal loses his saber, like that's made blatantly obvious in the trailer, and then it looks like he does have a blaster at his hip in, I think it's the shot where he's like looking at that back to tank or whatever it is. It does look like he's got a blaster, so I think there is a good chance, especially also because Respawn has done blaster, or I guess like gun gameplay before, because they're not really blasters in other games. But yeah, I do think we're going to get some blaster gameplay, which would be pretty fun, and I think that'll be a cool change up, as well as like when you get your saber back. I wonder if we can hold the saber in one hand and like use the blaster in the other hand. I think that's going to be pretty cool to see. Something else I'm looking forward to is just like the planets that I think we're going to be able to go to, because we know that Coruscant is going to be in the game. Whether we can play it, I'm not really sure, but we know like it'll be in cutscenes at the very least, because that Imperial whatever, the like Powan guy who looked like, we all thought it was the Grand Inquisitor, it is confirmed that he's on the planet Coruscant in those scenes, and surely they're not going to put that in the trailer and then just not have Coruscant at all. So I feel like we'll at least get to go there in like cutscenes or something, if not hopefully actually play there, which would be amazing. And then like that desert planet that the Mantis looks like it has crashed on, I personally think that could be Jeddah, but it could also honestly be Tatooine. Like, and I know it's so obvious, everyone always just goes, oh, desert planet, must be Tatooine, when there's like 40 desert planets that we've seen in Star Wars. I personally think it's more likely to be Jeddah. I think maybe there's a chance that Cal is off to see Saw Gerrera. I'm not sure timeline wise whether he's there yet or not, but just the fact that we know Saw is already in the previous game, as well as the fact that like Jeddah is a place that's heavily linked with like Jedi, and you know, people believe in Force users and stuff there. So the fact that we could get like Jeddah and Coruscant, it's also exciting to think about what other planets we could get to see. And then also just like, who the hell is that guy with the red lightsaber? That's something I'm really interested in seeing. Leading into the first game, it was really exciting to just try and speculate on what was going to happen, and we didn't really know anything, whereas with this being the second game, it's like even more exciting because we kind of know a little bit about the story, but we still don't really know what the hell's going on. And there's a lot more questions now because we've obviously already had the first game. So there's lots to look forward to, but really for me, the best answer would be just to get some answers to these questions that first trailer has set up. And yeah, I really do think Survivor's going to be, I think it will be like Game of the Year contender. I don't think it'll probably win it, but I think it will be a good enough game, just based off the last one and the fact that they obviously know that was a hit and they want to make this one even better. Respawn, do not miss. I think we are in for an absolute banger, personally. But anyway, guys, that is going to do it for the Q&A. Big thank you to all of the guys who asked questions in the Discord. Obviously, Star Wars gaming is a little bit dead right now, so I thought it would be fun to do something a little bit different. And hopefully in the next few months, there will be a bit of news. There's rumors about like some more trailers and stuff coming out for Survivor in December, so that's really only like a month away now. So hopefully it's not too long until we can actually have some stuff to talk about on this channel, at which point I'll definitely be getting back into a more regular routine. But that is going to do it for this one. Thank you guys very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the Force be with you always.